the numbers used right now are just to exist, not
Yeah,
to build muscle.
yeah.
But building muscle makes your existence better. So,
Uh,
um, yeah, so protein,
there's the
normally
quote for the video. I like that one. Building
muscle.
muscle makes your existence better. Facts.
Yeah, quote me on that. Uh,
I finally got a chance to sit down and have a chat with Ben Inglis. He's a really switched on guy, and I've been a fan of his work for a long time. He's been blowing up on TikTok, he's been blowing up on Instagram, and the reason is he just puts out really good quality, practical information. It's not mind blowing, and it's not the stuff that most people want to hear, but it's spitting straight facts. So I really wanted to sit down with him and just talk about a few different things. I know he gets a lot of the same questions over and over again, and a lot of questions for beginners. So I wanted to sit down, get to know the guy a little bit better, and also tick off some of the main questions I think a lot of people will have when they first start getting into fitness. Hope you guys enjoy this chat. I had a really good time doing it. Head down below and hit like. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments because I'd love to get him back on for a part 2. Hope you guys enjoy. So without further ado, here's my chat with Ben Inglis.
Ben, just to give you a little bit of my background into this, is I should start by giving a shout out to yourself and actually Brock Fit on TikTok, because I'm pretty new to the TikTok sphere, and it's been a really interesting process because I just kind of jumped on, just having a bit of a scroll through, and I think you and Brock were the first 2 accounts that actually came up on my Explore. And that's been and I was looking at that and I was like scrolling through and I was like, wow, these guys are like, they're putting out good information. They've got good followers. Most of the comments are, at least the ones I saw, are actually really positive and people like actually trying to learn. And then I think from that, just meeting you 2 guys in particular, I think I must have tricked the algorithm, because I've had like pretty much just good fitness content. Like it's been really good. It's been obviously like guys that you follow and support, and guys and girls that are just sharing good information. So I actually haven't seen the dark side of TikTok and the fads and the apple cider vinegar and the hip dips.
Interesting.
The only time I come exposed to it is when you guys are out there like myth busting. So thank you for that. Thank you for getting me exposed to the right side of TikTok early.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad that happened too, because it can be, there's a lot of dark content out there, a lot of fads.
I believe you. I spend a bit more time on Instagram's kind of in my one, so I know the absolute best and worst of sharing information on fitness. So yeah, why don't you just start by giving yourself a little bit of a background? I guess most of the people that are watching this will probably have come across you from TikTok. So why don't you give us a little bit of a background on kind of how you got into the fitness space, I guess, before the TikTok craze.
Oh yeah, sure. So I was always, I guess, into fitness, trying to, optimize my health with the dieting and working out. But it kind of took a turn for the worst when I took up wrestling in high school, kind of destroyed my relationship with exercise and food.
Mm.
Um, so I did that throughout high school, always did kind of grappling sports where you had to meet weight classes. But I didn't really understand the whole concept of calories or energy balance. And when that finally clicked for me, probably my freshman or sophomore year of college, um, I just thought that I really wish I had knew that sooner. And now I'm seeing all this information that uh, is exactly the type of stuff that I would have fallen for when I was that age and very, vulnerable, trying to lose weight, like don't know how to read or think even critically in this fitness sphere. So now I'm trying to help people see through that and explain that these concepts, they're not very scary. They're pretty straightforward, and it's important not to overcomplicate it and get caught up in all the little details when you're talking about fitness and health.
Yeah, absolutely. But I really relate to that. That's a really good way of putting it, is that, hey, and you and I know that so much of the industry is based around, fear, and uh, both generating unnecessary fear and also preying on fears that are quite innate to humans, and we're all insecure, and preying on a lot of that. And especially, social media, I think both, it can be a really powerful tool for that, and also, obviously one of our worst enemies. So did you tell me a bit about your wrestling career? Like, did you go through some pretty serious weight cuts? Like, what kind of? Because I know notoriously fight sports are some of the worst for brutal weight cutting.
I didn't have it too bad, fortunately. Never anything super dramatic. But it was just kind of like I was kind of scrawny and I was always being encouraged to drop down a weight class.
Mm,
So Lou just be like, oh, just cut 5 or 6 pounds of water weight, which is unique to combat sports, definitely not healthy.
mm,
But at the same time, every year I would go back into the sport not really being any stronger or not being any more muscular, and not really understanding the importance of weight. So luckily, I didn't have to do anything super dangerous or super dramatic, but it was really just like not being able to understand. It was really frustrating seeing other wrestlers who had such a like an advantage in their muscularity or
mm.
athleticism, probably because they had better nutrition.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my I've competed in a couple of powerlifting comps. I've taken a few of my clients to powerlifting comps,
Hmm.
and that's kind of been my only exposure to it. So in natural powerlifting, there's not as much. I guess people are slowly starting to do it smarter. Like, there's not many as people taking as brutal weight cuts. In unnatural, assisted powerlifting, there's some really messed up stuff going
Yeah.
on, probably beyond the realms of even wrestling. And you talk about like bloodletting and a few of the pretty serious things that people can get
Oh, wow.
into. I like to think they're not too widespread, but there's the same thing. Someone will weigh in 10 kilos lighter than they actually step into comp on. But it's so much, especially for wrestling, like wrestling and powerlifting, like if you're genetically, it's something that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about is, if you're built just conveniently to fit inside a weight class, like you're at a good spot. But like if you're a little bit too scrawny or your arms are a little bit too long or something like that, it can be quite detrimental in that, like you said, you're just constantly stuck between these two weight classes.
Yeah, it's not a good place to be.
I assume you were hitting the weights a fair bit through your wrestling career.
No,
No? Okay.
no,
No.
not until my senior year of high school, my last year of high school,
Right.
unfortunately.
And that was
Yeah.
your choice. Did a coach pull you up and go, you need to put on some size, or you just got sick of getting thrown around a bit, or?
Oh no, no, I actually technically I didn't do wrestling my senior year. I was more focused on judo
Mm,
and Brazilian jiu-jitsu at that point. But no, we did lifting, but it was kind of it was almost it wasn't very what's the word? It wasn't well structured at
mm,
all. Like it was kind of like go in the morning, lift really light weights for a lot of high reps, for muscle endurance,
yeah.
and then do sprints. So it was kind of not the most. It was not the most pleasant introduction to weightlifting.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I think we could probably talk about. Won't go too far down this because I think we'll talk about it for a while. But man, the state of strength and conditioning in a lot of cases is so out of whack. Like, you've got some of the best athletes in the world doing some of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Like, just some
Mm.
of the videos, even the ones that spring out for me is like, Michael Jordan, Kobe, LeBron.
Oh yeah,
And there's training videos of all of them. And
yeah.
you're like, what are these guys doing? Like, luckily, they're genetic freaks where if they touch a weight, they'll grow from it. At the elite sport level, I mean, in even, college and high school, you would like to think that there's people assume that, people know what they're doing by that point, but it's just not the case, is it?
It's not. No, it's
Um,
it's really not.
you did your undergrad. Sorry, and I'm a little bit different. We run things a little bit differently in Australia
Oh,
over
okay.
here, so you gotta talk me through this. And also, for anyone listening, this will be a bit of a contrast on the pretty extreme accent change, I think. So let me know if I speak a little bit too bogan Australian for you. So you were saying linguistics and computer programming before moving into fitness.
Yeah, I just finished my degree, my undergraduate degree in linguistics and computer science. That's a joint major offered by my university.
Mm,
So that was over in Boston.
mm,
Um, and like I said, I just finished that a few months ago. I really got into personal training, in terms of actually coaching people, getting certified. my sophomore year. So the first 2 years was really because I didn't get into lifting. I wish I had started way younger, but I think I started around 17 or 18 years old.
Mm.
So my last year of high school. And then transitioning into college, I really had no idea what I was doing. So that was a really steep learning curve for me. And I think
Sure.
that transitions nicely into what we're going to talk about next, which is like what do you do when you're first getting into the gym?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, from just looking through your comments, like some of the stuff you get, like it's always just such a medley of people just throwing their own problems out there, and just random questions without too much structure. But I think that's one of the biggest things is to try and put some context around that. So I mean, yeah, if you want to run through that, I mean, I think a lot of the questions that people ask you is like their own personal experiences. But if someone was going to come to you and go, okay, well, I've just started in the gym, someone, you've been there and I've been there, where we just get started in the gym and there's so much information out there. Where would you even look to start? Like, what's a good kind of some principles to kind of just really commit to right from the start?
Yeah, I like you can never put enough focus on the basic barbell compound movements. I wish somebody had ingrained that into my head when I first started, and I would have saved a lot of time doing random machines, uh, kind of going nowhere, making progress, of course, because I
Mm,
just started lifting. But
for sure.
wow, I wish somebody had told me to just stick with the barbells from the start.
Yeah.
But where do you get like where do you start for that? I mean, there are some articles that I would always refer people to. I really like the barbell medicine people. They have their beginner prescription, which is kind of their take on how to start lifting, basically.
Hmm.
And really it's kind of arbitrary, the sets and reps and the exact lifts. But the point is that you go to the gym and you know what you're doing, and you're doing enough that you're going to see progress, and you're not doing so much that you just can't recover from it or you hate it.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I'd like to hear, like, what would you say if somebody asked you that? Like, where do I
Yeah.
start?
Yeah, no, that's a really good way of putting it. Like, I think so many of us want to know the exact number for things. Um, and I think, just thinking about it now, like I think a much better way of kind of approaching it, rather than, I need to do 3 sets of 12 or something like that, is actually, like saying, spending some time kind of developing that relationship with your own body of like, okay, well, can I actually survive 3 sets of 12? And like, do I deserve 3 sets of 12? um or and then once you kind of build that relationship, or like, by the time I've done 2 sets, is my form just going straight out the window? Because then, and we'll talk a bit about kind of your experience in strength training later as well. But I know there's so many people, so many young guys, myself, eventually finish doing 3 sets of 12 and then move on to like 5 by 5 or something, just because that's what the internet said. And you're like, well, do you actually deserve 5 sets? Should you be doing 4? Or I mean, if you're actually progressing really well, like, can you do 6? But if you're just constantly going off like another template or something, then and you've
It's
never
too
developed
general.
that, yeah, if you develop that relationship with your body, then you're just doing what someone else said when they told you to. So I think that's a really good way to look at it. Um, when you're when when you say like sticking with the barbells, are you big fan then of kind of your squat, bench, deadlift?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a starting strength, Mark Ripito,
Mm.
I guess fanboy at heart.
Yeah.
That book really stuck with me. I think that it's just really important to learn how to move. The closest thing we can to loaded human movement is probably barbell training.
Mm.
So I understand that not everybody wants to do that, but I think most people can. And I think there's a lot of really good reasons for sticking with the basics. So squat, bench, deadlift, press, overhead press, and maybe some rows.
Mm.
And the reason I like that format so much is because um, the movements themselves are kind of like it does take a long time to like get them down, like really learn how to do them, execute them properly.
Mm.
But it's nothing that can't be fixed by watching some videos and just practicing.
Mm.
And what trips me up is when people always kind of spread this kind of fear, this narrative of fear that if you do this wrong, you're going to get hurt.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
that's just not the case. You're going to get hurt if you do way too much too quickly, or if you're just not prepared for the position that you're like, if you're weak in a certain position.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. That's just a little side note
yeah,
there. It's like you're saying is that's I think, you and I have probably seen more people getting injured from trying really hard to avoid a position.
yeah,
If you
for
never
sure.
learn to do a proper deadlift, that's what's going to get you injured, not
Hmm.
necessarily actually learning to deadlift, as long as with the caveat, of course, of you're selecting an appropriate weight, which I think
Absolutely.
most people try and rush that part of the process as well.
But yeah, I think it's two main things. One is efficiency. So with those 3 or 4 movements, 5 if you include the row, maybe a power clean if you're an athlete,
Mm.
you're really hitting everything that you need to hit. And since you're so sensitive to training and so new to training, you're gonna see some significant muscle growth and body composition changes while you're developing all this. I hate the word, but functional strength.
Yeah.
Functional in the sense that you're improving your ability to produce force, you're improving your balance, your coordination. And the other thing is adherence. When you take something as simple as tell somebody to stick with 3 to 5 movements versus putting them on a program that's going to have them doing all off the bat multiple variations
Mm.
of a movement, or seemingly random movements with no clear progression. I think it can be really motivating when you know exactly what you're going to do. You know you can put a little bit more weight on next week. It feels a little bit better. It's just like I've had a lot of success with that, and I think it's really important.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. I think that's a really good, takeaway for people listening to this as well, is that, like you said, that going into the gym with a plan. And
Yes.
to be honest, the longer I'm in the industry and the more people I coach, the more I kind of realize that a lot of what you do doesn't matter as long as you've got a plan. Like,
Yeah,
to
it's true.
talk about, it's interesting throwing it out there, but that whole newbie gains, I love that term because it always sounds like so unscientific, but like it's that
It's
actual
true.
concept of like, the
Yeah.
first probably 3 months, maybe more.
Usually like 3 to 5, I think,
Yeah, it's like,
depending on how genetically superior you are,
yeah, yeah,
how good
exactly
your
right.
genetics are.
Yeah. Like that kind of 3 to 5 month period, I really wish that people would spend less time overthinking and more time just
Hmm.
doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a
That's
hard message to share.
it's a very yeah, it's I mean, I regret there's no point ruminating on it now, but I'm thinking of all the time I could have been spending like bringing up all those important lifts instead of, doing like tricep press down on my second week in the gym.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's talk a little bit briefly about kind of the nutrition side of things. And of course, this is such a big topic, and again, one that
Yeah,
people largely like to overcomplicate. But I'm going to play the ideal client here, right? Again, most
awesome.
people will not do this, but if you're on social media and there's some messages, you can go, okay, I'm going to stick to some basic lifts. I'm going to stick to a program, and I'm going to do the same thing for about 3 to 5 months. Like, what would you suggest that I look at from a nutrition standpoint? What are the pinnacles there?
That's a really good question. So in this case, are you trying to like are you average body weight, average body fat kind of thing, trying to lose weight? Um, what's the context?
Cool. Now, I like what you did there because, like I said, not many people will ask the question I did on social media. It's generally, a lot fancier than that. But also, the other thing is like the first thing you did was okay, well, let's get some context. And that's the other thing that people aren't doing when they're taking advice from someone on social media, right?
Yeah, it really is specific. Like I can't throw out general advice, and a lot of people will do that. They'll throw out a general advice and hope it sticks for some people, and then they kind of get these massive followings. But yeah, that's another issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll dig into that if we got time. We'll dig into that for a bit later on anyway. All right, so let's run a couple of hypothetical scenarios. Let's say, just a young guy trying to put on some muscle, probably, similar to, I think, for yourself and myself, has kind of been a bit skinnier throughout their sporting career and just
Okay, yeah.
trying to bulk up a bit.
So, yeah, the thing is when you're first starting and you're trying to put on muscle, it can be really difficult for some people just have a hard time putting on muscle, or weight in general. So there's always the protein question. Like how much protein do you need to gain muscle? Is more protein better? Like is too much protein bad? And I'm not going to get into like the whole is too much protein bad thing because it's not really relevant. You're probably not going to eat too much
It's
protein
probably
to
not going to be a
cause
problem.
harm.
Yeah.
So the protein question, I usually say, and I'd like to hear your take on this, but usually 0.7 to 1 grams per pound, or somewhere around 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram. Those are the numbers that I normally advise.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think?
I thank you for doing the kilo to pound conversion there. Appreciate that. That's always an ongoing fun conversation reading the scientific articles and stuff. Yeah, look, that's a pretty good threshold. Like I think, and and again, not to distract the conversation too much, but like since the mainstream kind of adoption of tracking calories, like it's made YouTube and Instagram, TikTok comment sections like just such a nightmare because everyone's like throwing out just such specific numbers, and you're like,
how many calories should I eat?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You've never seen me before, and my profile's on private. But how many macros should I be on? And you're like, I'm not even going to try and help you. Like, I want to, but yeah. Look, those numbers are pretty much like as a general rule. Like a lot of times these days, I'll simplify it and I'll kind of just go like, if you can stick at double body weight in kilos, so like 2 grams
that's
per
right in
kilo
the
of body weight.
range. That's right around where I would say too.
Yeah, and the reason I kind of do it that way, like you said, those numbers that you read out, and that's kind of where most of the literature's sitting from the scientific community as well. But I generally find, and not to stereotype, but I generally find guys will hit about that number or slightly on the higher end, and I generally find that most females will fall a little bit lower than that, or sometimes a lot lower than that, depending on what influencer they've been listening to.
Yeah, I find that as well. But in terms of like going back to the question, so the protein is always the big one I want to hit because without protein, you're seriously gonna impact your gains. Like you could still make progress, but that's probably, in my opinion, it's been proven over and over again. We need protein to build muscle.
Yeah, the one I keep saying with that one is like I sound like such a broken record. And I know you do this as well. It's like a lot of the advice is the same thing over and over again because people need to know it. But like I feel like such a stereotype being a personal trainer, and like someone comes to me and the first thing I'm, it's like, well, how much protein are you eating? But like at the same time, like until we stop seeing that that's so important, we're gonna keep talking about it.
Yeah, or until people, the numbers used right now are just to exist, not to build muscle.
Yeah.
But building muscle makes your existence better. So, so protein.
There's the quote for the video. I like that one. Building muscle makes your existence better. Fact.
Yeah, quote me on that. I don't like to have people tracking calories if I don't have to. So the approach I would like to use is if somebody's having a hard time gaining weight, I tell them they usually don't have to worry about calories because their problem is eating enough food. And tracking calories becomes a valuable tool when you're trying to lose weight. But if you're trying to gain weight, it can just become I think it's important. It's really important to understand the nutritional value and the calorie value of what you're eating. But if I don't have to have somebody tracking, then I'm not going to. So if they're hitting their protein, I would just tell them, just eat. Like if you're having a hard time gain weight, just like you probably don't have to worry about the rest, as long as you're getting your protein and micronutrients and
Mm,
fiber.
mm,
So yeah, prioritize lean proteins, prioritize fruits, vegetables, whole grains, um, complex carbohydrates, everything like that. Eat some fats. But let's say that they're not gaining weight. They're still struggling to gain weight, because I like to get into the numbers.
mm,
Um, so I would have them. I would want them to be in a moderate surplus. I think the numbers I usually use are from a review. I forget. I think it's like a narrative review of the bodybuilders in the off season or something like
mm,
that. And they say 10 to 20% above maintenance for novices. The reason for that is because we've again proven multiple times that being in a surplus does have significant anabolic properties,
mm, for sure.
meaning you can gain muscle out of a surplus, but it won't be as much as if you were in a surplus.
Mm,
So they come to me and they can't gain weight. They've tried eating enough food. They just can't get, they just for some reason can't eat enough food. Then that's when I'd say, all right, then start eating 10 to 20% over maintenance. Don't do too much cardio. Like exactly the opposite of what I tell someone trying to lose weight.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Drink your calories, have a protein supplement, like all that good stuff.
Yeah. I was talking with one of my friends yesterday about the and I'm sure it's still going around there, but I don't know if you went through this, but there was a point where I eventually started to experiment with, and I think a lot of people do experiment or come across the drinking like a gallon of milk a day kind of
Mm-hmm.
diets.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like,
Um,
again, it's just another version of a fad diet, but like sometimes you got to figure out some creative ways to get the calories in. I do not recommend that, but but
Whole milk.
whole milk.
Have you read Starting Strength?
No, I've read clips. I've read a lot of Ripto stuff, but I've got the book, but
So
it's on the
Rippito, pretty good lifting advice,
yeah.
questionable nutrition advice. He
Ye-
said, I said like have him drinking like 2 gallons of milk a day, like
mm,
6,000 calories. I'm like, whoa,
yeah,
no, no, no.
and that would have been from my T Nation days, the Riptos and the Dave Tates and stuff, where it's like, if you can
Yeah,
get more peanut butter
John
and milk
Dan
in, yeah, there you go, and
or
just
Dan John.
and just like low bar squat, you're 1 rep max and you're good. It's so interesting, that concept, and we won't dive too much into it, but these concepts of like, okay, well, calorie surplus, calorie maintenance, calorie deficit, and a lot of people kind of throw around those terms without meaning it, but like saying,
Mm,
if someone isn't objectively getting heavier on the scales, then they're not in a calorie surplus
most of the time, yeah.
most of the time.
Unless
And
it's just like a weird water weight thing. But
yeah,
yeah, I always say look at your weekly averages. Like
mm,
daily weigh-ins are a piece of the puzzle.
yeah, that's a whole nother gem right there. But if people want to take away, average weights are so much more important than
Mm,
individual weights, and
absolutely.
especially when dieting, I think.
Yes.
But yes, that's one thing of like, so many, and I went through this. I remember looking at the scales, and I just wanted to get to like 78 kilos, and it felt like it took me 78 kilos. So what's that, like? Yeah, 5 times
100,
2.2, 180 pounds.
2.2. I'll do the math sometime.
Yeah, something. I shouldn't
I'm
have.
currently at like 83, so 83 kilos.
83 kilos. Yeah, cool. I was actually, well, one of the reasons why I got into strength training was because I shot up early. So we have Australian rules football, which if anyone wants to look up on YouTube's a really good sport, but it'll be completely bizarre to you. I used to play ruck, so when I played basketball, and I was like kind of power forward because I grew up, like I shot up pretty quick, and then I just stopped, and and everyone else like started growing taller, and I was like, well, I'm not going to get any taller, so I might as well try and put on some size, and that was kind of why I started getting into weights in the first place. But I remember
Yeah.
like just looking at 78 kilos and just being like, in just stuffing myself, and I just couldn't put on any size. But in hindsight, I was probably doing exactly what I needed to put on, to be in that 10 to 20% surplus is not a lot. Like you feel like you're eating a lot, but if you're doing that properly, the weight gain isn't going to be crazy fast. That's going to
No.
take a few months. And we actually want that for muscle. Like a lot of people, I think, go the other way where they do the milk diet, or they just start eating fast food or whatever they have to do, and they actually see the scale shoot up too quick.
Put on a little too much fat.
Yeah,
Not a whole
exactly.
lot of extra muscle.
Exactly. It's just another reminder that you do have to have that play a game a little bit, and that muscle. If your goal is to put on like serious amounts of muscle, then that's going to take a fair bit of time.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah, and would you normally have a conversation then with someone on fats and carbs, or is it mostly just hit your protein, get in that calorie surplus, and the rest will take care of itself?
Usually I'm not too worried about that because people tend to kind of self-select whether I always recommend carbs around training. But some people just feel better on a slightly higher fat diet. Some people feel better on more carbs, it seems. I see no reason to tell somebody to go keto or cut carbs before working out. I think that's a recipe for disaster for almost everyone.
Mm,
The only thing with fats is saturated fat intake. And I'm probably going to get blasted by the keto crowd for this one, but usually it's best practice to like limit saturated fats to roughly, I think, 10% or fewer
mm,
calories throughout your day. But otherwise, people will kind of self-select, and the distribution doesn't matter too much. But in general, I think people prefer carbs.
mm,
I do. I think most people will choose more carbs because you get more food. Fats are much more calorically dense.
mm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's like I'll cop it from the keto crowd for this one. I'll lean into it. But I mean, that's the thing. It's like there's a reason everything delicious is like super high in saturated fats as well. Is that like pretty much every like actual medical review on saturated fats turns around and goes, you know what, it's probably not going to have.
Maybe you should limit it.
Maybe you should keep an eye on that, right? Like no one's going to accidentally overeat like polyunsaturated fats and stuff.
Yeah, unless you're
Like
drinking olive oil or something.
yeah. Actually, I shouldn't say that because maybe the coconut oil team might get close to.
I think
Um,
coconut's saturated,
it's
isn't it?
yes, actually it is. You're right. Coconut, avocado. I'm not sure. I shouldn't go too far out of my wheelhouse here, but yeah, easy. Okay, I really like that. I think a lot of times people do get caught up on those fats. And like I said, unless you're going out of your way to do the coconut oil or butter in coffee kind of thing, you're probably not going to, if you're sticking to whole foods, you're probably going to be okay.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's a lot of there's no reason to add any more restriction to something than there needs to be. I think that, and I think that for you, and I know for me, but I suspect for you as well, that I mean, a lot of working with a client on their diet is putting in some restriction or guidance, but also like
Hmm.
there's so many people out there saying this food is good and this food is bad, when there's
Yeah.
no point adding in that
No
extra
point.
restriction more than there needs to be.
Yeah. The thing is, like you can almost always eat more fruits and vegetables, and and the combination of strength training and eating with intent,
Mm,
so that you have to eat this much protein, you need your micronutrients and sleep, and just having that tends to cause people to lean towards more nutritious food choices. It's not a scientific fact, but that a lot of people do make more health-seeking choices when they
mm,
start lifting and they start seeing results.
mm. Yeah, absolutely. I think, and that, I mean, one of the things that I accidentally did quite early in my lifting, I say lifting career, in my time in the gym, was like, I started to fuel myself for performance. I was playing basketball, I was playing volleyball, I was playing Australian rules footy. And so every meal kind of had that awareness of, all right, well, is this going to move me closer or further away from my goal?
Hmm.
And I think that when you look at that and you go, okay, well, what do we know is going to be good for you? We're talking some meat. We're probably talking lean meat. We're talking some carbs. We're talking like
Hmm.
veggies and fruit. Like
Yeah,
when we
absolutely.
start moving away from that, nowadays people start looking at this thing of, oh, well, I want to
What's the
fuel
best
myself.
food?
Yeah. And we've lost that. It's like, I want to fuel myself for my, for my fitness, like my group training class or something, I can't have sugar. And you're like, well, I can't have fruit. And you're like, well, how did this fueling for your workout suddenly become all about restricting and this food's going to kill me and give me cancer, and this food's going to miraculously protect me from coronavirus? And you're like, we've made some jumps here that don't quite check out.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that, a lot of making big conclusions off of a very small amount of evidence. A lot of that and a lot of fear mongering, and it just spreads completely the wrong message about food and how we should approach it in terms of health.
Yeah. And you get all these people who are, just afraid to eat anything because, they don't
Yeah.
want to, they don't want to eat the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then if we flip that and we say, probably, I think one of the other questions that you'd probably come across a lot is like, okay, well, how do I, same thing. I know a lot of, I again, shouldn't speak for an entire gender, but a lot of females now are really starting to get into the weights room, and it's really good to see. And I've seen people asking you kind of questions of, okay, well, I'm in the gym, I'm trying to lose a little bit of weight, and this will apply for guys as well, trying to lose weight. But let's say you've got a female or a guy who's not hugely out of shape, but they've got a little bit more fat than they'd like. What's the kind of training approach? What's the kind of nutrition approach you'd kind of lay out?
Yeah, so I see this all the time. And this is what you would call body recomposition. And that word, I hate what the fitness industry has done to that word. They've turned it into this magic idea that you can simultaneously get shredded and get jacked, like build a bunch of muscle and lose fat at the same time. And that it gets me really annoyed because yes, they're separate tissues. You can lose one and gain the other at the same time. However, there's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't constantly be in a deficit, not just in terms of psychological and physical stress, but because it's not optimal for building muscle. So if somebody wanted to start out losing weight, and weight loss was a priority, whether it's for either medical reasons, so if they're concerning like hip to waist ratios, concerning biomarkers such as blood pressure, lipids, anything like that, then yes, absolutely start in a deficit, or even aesthetic goals. Like, yeah, you wanna look good. Um, but I try and set realistic expectations for people, because if you're just starting in the gym and you're losing weight, you don't have a lot of muscle. And just because you can build muscle and lose fat at the same time doesn't mean once you lose the fat, you're gonna look really muscular.
Yeah.
That's just not how it works. That takes many years. So I would start them in a deficit, a moderate deficit, probably somewhere between 10 and 20, maybe even 30%, depending on how aggressive you want to be and how much they can adhere to it, how sustainable it is, all that. But I would try and get them out of the deficit as as quickly as possible, because I think that it's not necessarily a waste of your, like we were talking about, newbie gains, but the amount. I don't want to discourage anyone from going to the gym and lifting, because I'm not trying to say you're going to kill your gains if you start in a deficit, but my goal is to get them out of a deficit, get their metabolism up, and build some quality muscle, and then when the time comes, you can diet back down. But just this idea of kind of building fat and losing muscle, and kind of that, just the sentiment that it's possible to stay lean and shredded year round, it's kind of frustrating to see.
Absolutely. Like I even had I haven't been doing a huge amount of stuff on TikTok. I'm just kind of dipping my toe in. Like YouTube and Instagram's kind of my main thing. But already I've started getting a few people messaging me on Instagram being like, hey, I really like your TikTok. Like, can you help me with this? And now I'm like, oh man, I've got to keep doing TikTok now. Like it's working. People are
Do
finding
it.
me. I'm like, I gotta keep help. Like, and and they're genuinely interested, which is the key thing. They're not just time wasting. Um, but that's the question I had from a girl kind of messaged me, and she was like, like I'm on I'm on really low calories, and I've realized now that that's not great for me. and I want to bring those calories up. But I feel like when I do that, I put on weight. And I'm like, well, that's kind of the point. Like that's literally by definition what we're looking for here. But when someone comes in, and I gave her a little bit of advice that wasn't the advice you wanted, which, it never is,
Yeah, a
because
lot of
it's,
that.
yeah.
I do that too.
But it's the thing is, like, you can't, if someone comes to you and they want something unrealistic, they want something that's going to happen fast, they want to lose, they want to get shredded, and they want to put on muscle, like, you're always going to be frustrated if you're trying to make the body work to the timelines and the image that you have for it.
Yes.
And and that's one of the downsides to social media, is we have this expectation of what we should look like based off what other people are like. And most of the people on TikTok or Instagram or whatever who have good followings and who have good bodies have been working at it for 5 years. So it's like, why?
At least
At
5,
least
10 years.
Yeah, and the real good physiques, the ones that are in the game have been there for, and just been grinding for a lot longer than and that's it. It's like it becomes, like I said, it comes across as demotivating to turn around to someone and go, look, what you're aiming for is unreasonable. Like, it's just not going to happen. But if you don't have that conversation with them and go, you're not actually going to be able to do that in the next 2 months, it's probably going to take 5 years. We've got two ways. And yes, it might demotivate them in the short term, but if they keep looking for quick fixes, then they're going to get 5 years down the track and still not have the body that they want.
Exactly.
And so I guess that kind of leads into to the next question of what would be the plan of attack for someone who does want to achieve body recomposition. They want to lay down, they want to put some kind of muscle. Again, it's hard to do this without context, but like, what's a realistic timeline for people to go, okay, well, I'm going to dedicate this much time to maybe being in a surplus or a maintenance or a deficit. Feel free to not go into specifics with that, because I know it's such a broad question.
Yeah, totally. So for this one, I think the key here is, like you said, setting realistic expectations. Because a lot of the people you see have been training for a really long time, and they have good genetics. I'm not going to ignore the genetic factor. Some people have better genetics for certain tasks, and they might be predisposed to staying leaner, having more muscle fibers, having more aesthetically pleasing muscle fibers. So the first thing is reassuring them that it's totally normal to not look away, especially in just a few months. And the timeline that I like to give, so I say that for most people, if you're just starting, I say you can expect to start seeing results in about 3 to 5 months, to kind of, because that's when you really start to realize those novice gains.
And that's like consistently training for 3 to 5 months. That's
consistent.
That's not a YouTube, 3-minute abs video. We're talking actually good quality work.
3 to 5 months, exactly, of, like you said, consistent training, probably 3 to 4 times a week. You're actually putting more weight on the bar, doing more. Not the random workouts.
Yeah.
And then after the first 3 to 5 months, your progress will probably slow down, and that's totally normal. And then, but you'll be into it at that point. I like to think after 5 months, you'll not be addicted to the progress, but you'll love it. Or if you don't, then you can stop, and I won't force you to do it. But I think most people will have fallen in love with the iron or the gym at that point.
Absolutely. There's got to be something that keeps you coming back, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't still be doing this, however many years later.
Yeah. So I like to kind of give landmarks, because I can't really say, I can't predict someone's genetics, but I'll say if you're putting in the work consistently, your nutrition is intelligent, wait 3 to 5 months and then reevaluate. See if you don't see a difference, like favorable body composition changes. Then the progress might slow down a little bit, but then you have years. Like, it only gets better.
Yes, I love that. It only gets better. One of the things I really try and convey with my clients is that, and I think this is really hard it's a really hard thing. Like, it's easy to say, it's really hard to actually conceptualize and feel.
Mm-hmm.
But like, everything's a phase. Like, when you're massing, you may not love your body with that little bit of extra fat. When you're in a calorie surplus, by definition, we want you to put on some weight. Some of that's going to be fat, but it's a temporary
Mm-hmm.
thing. Like, you're not now going into your dream physique, but that's fine, because then you're going to diet. And you know what? Dieting, you might like how you look better, but your quality of life's going to drop.
Not gonna feel great.
You're not going to feel great, right? And that's actually okay. But you also want that to be a phase. Like, I think one thing that I always lay out with my clients is, your kind of maps of why it's worth spending some time in a calorie surplus. Build your metabolism, build some muscle, some extra, best place to put on muscle. That's where you're going to do your best growing, and you'll literally recover from
Yeah.
injuries better.
Yeah.
And actually, it might even help your organs while you're there.
Hit some PRs.
Hit some PRs. Like, that's, focus on how you're feeling in the gym, and then diet. But again, it's knowing that those things come and go, and like, it's not, doesn't need to be summer season all year round, and it's going to hold you back in the long term, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's really important, is talking about that. Something that you made me think of and I should do more of is setting those expectations, which is it's like everything is, you're not going to look the same all year. You're not going to feel the same all year. You get what you put in, and sometimes you're like you said, this could be a phase. This could be a necessary evil, I guess, putting on a little extra fat to break through some plateaus and build some more quality muscle. But I think it's funny because people tend to overcomplicate dieting, but losing fat is is the easy part. Sorry, it's the easy part.
Absolutely.
It takes less time. It takes much less time to lose fat. It takes a couple months of dieting, but to build muscle, it takes many years.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. And like, that's one of the things, isn't it? Because people will spend 5 years trying fad diets and stuff and not achieve anything. But if you do it right, you shouldn't really be dieting for more than, maybe at most 6 months if you've got a lot of weight to lose before you kind of look at backing off a little bit. I'm just going to do a cheeky little plug, because I did an interview with my coach, which I think I even sent you the link to. It's the one with the Who's That Pokemon cover. So for anyone so my coach, I'm working with him. He's a nutrition researcher, but for anyone who just has the goal of maximum muscle, we go through a little bit of a deeper dive on that, on kind of what kind of rates of mass gain you're looking for. So not so specific for anyone, guys or girls looking to lean down a bit, but if you are a guy or a girl looking to actually stack on some muscle, then that's probably worth checking out. Mate, so let's change topics a little bit, because I mean, these really good topics, and I think some really practical takeaways for people there. But we could probably talk all day. But I think if people haven't got the point by then, they're probably not. They're probably looking for the information they want, not the information they need.
Good point.
So let's move on to, I know one of your other favorite topics is like fitness fads.
That is absolutely my favorite topic.
Like, favorite in, like, it triggers you, but also it's what you spend your time thinking about.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh God, the newest one. Have you seen the one where they literally are just like doing this thing with their stomach? Like, it's kind of like you just stand up and just like crunch your stomach standing, and people are like, "Oh, you lose like 10 pounds in a week."
I
Man,
have
that is
not
the
seen
newest
that.
one.
But I think it's amazing. Like, I like to think I'm at this point where I've seen so many different fads that nothing can shock me. And then every time a new one comes out, I'm like, surely no one will believe that. And then they do.
Oh my God, the backlash I got. I tried to tell people like, this doesn't work, and people, every time the response is, yeah, but have you tried it? Like, how can you say it doesn't work if you haven't tried it? I'm like,
yeah. I have this chat with my girlfriend, because she and I get myself in a bit of trouble, because she's like, if you've got like dry scalp or something, it's like, oh, like put vinegar in your hair, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. She's like, but like, why? You don't know if it doesn't work? And I'm like, I mean, I know it wouldn't cost me anything to try it, but also I'm going to lean with something that's got a little bit more of an evidence backing to it. Like, I'm just going to save myself the time and effort of trying, because otherwise, you open Pandora's box of if you have to try everything that anyone's ever suggested on the internet,
Yep.
you're going to do a lot of damage, and you're going to waste, like, at worst, you're going to do some damage. At best, you'll waste a lot of time and money.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So, I mean, we won't go through this too much, because this is like literally what you do on TikTok and what's added a lot of value for a lot of people. But like, what's some of the biggest ones? I know apple cider vinegar. I know hip dips. Is there any that you think that really just need to put a final knife in?
Put a nail in the coffin.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, apple cider vinegar does not work for weight loss. Let's end that now.
Yeah.
Um,
It doesn't work for much. Like, it gets
fasted
it gets touted
cardio.
for everything, and apple cider vinegar has
Yeah.
not. It's
I want to ask you, like, so the research I've seen does show like a little bit of a benefit for balancing blood sugar. But my question is, like, first of all, unless you're diabetic, why does that matter? And second of all, even if you're diabetic, I don't think it has enough of an effect to actually like help your diabetes.
yeah.
So
It's interesting ones. Like, so my girlfriend's actually a type 1 diabetic, and
interesting.
It's the first time I've kind of come so close to actually seeing what that looks like. Right. Because before that I'd talked about, I knew some stuff about particularly, type 2 diabetes, working with clients and that kind of thing. But it's the first time I'd seen like what day to day looks like for someone who is a diabetic. And I'm going to tell you, like, the biggest problem in their life is not whether or not they've got apple cider vinegar on their breakfast.
Exactly.
Like, it's
gotta be from
it's
gotta be infuriating.
Yeah, it's a full-time job, and it is so much, and as a result, she's very switched on when it comes to nutrition and managing, and obviously got hugely like such a good relationship with how she's feeling and the food she's having and that kind of thing, because she needs to. And like, again, even managing your blood sugar is like, we're talking a 5% benefit. That's controversial, but like, if your energy balance is not wrong, is off, if you're in a calorie surplus when you're trying to be in a deficit, or you're in a deficit when you're supposed to be in a surplus, having apple cider vinegar is not going to make a difference. Like, in fact, no matter what phase of dieting you're in, even if you're nailing your calories,
it's not going to make a difference.
It's not going to make a difference
unless it adds calories and you go over your. I don't know. Does it have calories?
I actually don't know. I mean, you'd probably have to drink a lot of it, which I wouldn't imagine too many people would do. But it's one of those things of it isn't it, like, where like, even to spend your time investing, like, spending time arguing about it is probably more beneficial than actually taking it. Like, just do something else. Like, people spend so long being on one side of the fence of, does it do something, does it not? But even if it worked beyond its wildest promises, like, even if it worked beyond the science has shown, and we're just waiting for science to catch up to it, it's still going to be,
which we're usually not.
which we're not. I'm pretty confident in this case, especially scenario. We're not. But even if it did have these like magical benefits that we just haven't realized yet, like, it's still not going to beat the law of thermodynamics. It's still not going to be more than a 1% kind of change in your diet, and it's certainly not going to help you achieve all your dream body goals.
Yeah, I would say there's two more I would love to put the nail in the coffin. One is training your abs to get a slimmer waist. Pretty much entirely genetics and body fat. The only thing training your abs does is grow your abs. And I'm sorry to say this, but if you grow your abs too much, you're actually going to have a bigger waist. But it's a small effect. But the point is, you don't train your abs to get a smaller waist. That is one of the most frustrating things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What was the last one?
Yeah. Tell me the last one, then we can go.
I'm trying to think of the last one. You go ahead and tell me what you were gonna say, and maybe it'll
Yeah.
come back to me.
Yeah, cool. So I mean, I've skirted on both sides of the fence on ab training a lot because, like, especially when I first started, I was like, never really train abs, just focus on getting stronger on the big lifts and it'll take care of it. We all have abs. When you're lean enough, they will show themselves. And that's still generally what I believe. When I was going through I did a bodybuilding or a physique comp a couple of years ago, and it wasn't until I started, really dieting down that I could actually get a bit of a sense of more for what my genetic ab potential was, and at what body fat I would need to actually be in order to have like a diced six pack year round. And so now, like, having a bit of a, now a bit more of a bodybuilder kind of approach to it, I'm like, it's the same as every other muscle group. Like,
It is.
can you get it to grow? Can you create hypertrophy in the muscle? Yes.
Yep.
Now, what capacity, like, even if you've got the most shredded six pack in the world, like, what capacity genetically do you have to grow your six pack? Probably not much. So you're probably, if we know that you need a calorie surplus to build the most muscle possible, you're probably going to be needing to train your abs hard multiple times a week in a calorie surplus for a lot of months before you're getting any meaningful ab growth. And when do people want to train their abs? It's not when you got the winter bulk. It's when you're shredded.
Check my. Yeah, I'm actually writing a hypertrophy article now that kind of goes over the like muscle groups and how much training. Let me see.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you would need up to probably 12 to 25 sets per week for maximum growth.
Yep.
From my research, that article is coming out tomorrow.
Yep. Very cool.
Yeah, it's a little random thing.
Yeah.
But
is that up on your website?
Yeah. Yep. It'll be up tomorrow. Very cool. Like you're saying, it's your genetic potential for your abs is mostly revealed when you're very lean. And if that's something you really care about, then train it. But train it like any other muscle, like you mean it. Don't just do random ab workouts.
Yes, absolutely. And like, that's the thing is, you either get people who don't train their abs at all, or they do 7 exercises back to back with no rest in between. Right? You still need a way to progressively overload. You still need a way to either add weight or to add reps or to add sets. Like, you still need a way of doing more. But I mean, hit it hard and rest and recover. Don't do a million, just throw around. I followed this YouTube influencer for their 7-minute ab routine. Like, train it, take a rest time. Train it, take a rest time. Treat it like you would your bench press or your hip thrusts. Like, hit it, let it recover. The muscles don't miraculously work differently because they're in your core or your abs.
No. I think a lot of people just get caught up in the like, oh, it burns. Like,
yes,
it burns.
Yeah. We won't go into that because that's a huge topic, but you can't hear it enough. The burn doesn't mean anything. I hope that clue goes through to one person, but it won't. But I hope one person hears this and goes, okay, the burn doesn't mean anything. It can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're burning fat or you're getting a good result out of something, right?
Yeah. Last topic, the last myth, I guess, would be there's a lot of people who think that fasting just kind of magically burns fat. I don't know, like it is everywhere. There are some hardcore fasting, I don't know what to call them, zealots.
Yeah.
Just like turn off your insulin, magically burn fat. Like, you don't even have to eat in a deficit. Like, I just don't even know. Like, I don't even know what to say anymore.
I have never come across someone, and I mean, I'm sure they are out there, but I'm not even sure if they're out there, but I've never met someone who goes, I am meticulously tracking my calories and fasting, and I am able to lose weight when I'm in a deficit. Like, the people who I've come across who are hardcore intermittent fasting fans love throwing out, I'm in a calorie deficit, but they also not tracking. You're like, okay, well, where are you pulling that from? And they're not. They're just going from their opinion. They're going, oh, well, I feel like I'm in a calorie deficit and I'm also fasting. And you're like, okay, well, you're throwing out a lot of big claims without literally any data to back it up.
The great thing is that we do have empirical data that shows no difference between a calorie matched fasting group and eating every 3 hours group. So
Yeah. Absolutely. So, sorry. Let's just assume for a second that everyone listening to this is on the same page. Like, we're just going to caveat this and say, guys, intermittent fasting isn't anything magical, right? I think, and this is my opinion, and I'm sure, well, this is the scientific consensus, so I'm sure you'll agree with this.
It's a very well-informed opinion.
Yeah, there you go. That, like, it's a method for controlling calorie intake, and if it works sustainably with someone's lifestyle, then I'm probably not going to tell them not to do it. But I'm also not going to encourage someone to do it because of some kind of pseudo hormonal benefit that they're going to get. Is that your kind of take on it as well?
Yeah, I don't have an issue with whether or not you choose to do it. What I take an issue with is when literally doctors and dietitians are on this app telling people that you ditch the calorie deficit, ditch the diets, just start fasting. That's what I take issue with. It's very misleading.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, like, the medical community, there's so many people in fitness overstepping their realms into the medical field,
into nutrition,
which is messed up. But you also get a lot of doctors stepping into it's more and more, because there's a lot of money to be made stepping outside of their lane. And you're like, a doctor is not by any means qualified. Like, the majority of doctors shouldn't be giving out extreme diet advice. That's why most of the good doctors, the majority of the doctors who aren't selling books, will give you really general advice. They'll just be like, okay, well, eat more veggies, move more, and you're pretty much good from there. I just, from my own personal, like, I actually most of the time will do a form of intermittent fasting, just because I get up at 5 a.m. to train clients, and I don't want to eat breakfast at 5 a.m. Right? So
totally valid.
Yeah, and then I'll train, and I'll come home and I'll eat for the rest of the day. So that gives me, I don't know, I've still got like a 10 or 12 hour eating window, but I'm having quite a long time between my dinner and my breakfast. And that works for my lifestyle. I don't claim it has any magical benefits. I actually probably think, if anything, it's doing me a bit of harm, because we do have some evidence to suggest that eating breakfast, eating food, and especially carbs before a workout, will probably help you. But I mean, at the same time, if it works with your lifestyle and it helps you control calories, and you're still seeing the rest of your objective kind of markers, you're still heading the right direction, then, I mean, do it or don't do it.
Right.
Is that kind of where you stand with it as well?
Totally agree with that sentiment.
Man, we went through some big stuff there. I mean, we had a few other topics that I think we might wrap it up there, because I don't even know what time it is, but I think you've probably got to wrap up soon.
Yeah.
Mate, we've got a couple of other things we can get through, but I mean, if people want to jump down to the comments. I always forget to give my videos a little plug, so that shows that I'm not very good at social media.
Marketing yourself.
Exactly. You got to tell people to smash that like button and subscribe. But if you like this video, or if you've got more questions, jump down in the comments and let us know, because I'd love to get Ben back on for a part 2. There's a whole bunch of things that we wanted to talk about that we haven't gotten to yet. And we'll just go for days. So if you guys can give us some direction on what you'd like to see for the next one, that would be awesome. But just quickly, thanks for coming on, Ben. Do you want to tell us a little bit about like, what have you got planned up for the next couple of months? Strength training is a bit of a focus for the moment for training of clients.
Yeah. So I'm currently doing some powerlifting style training. I was looking to get on a platform until COVID took out all the competitions.
Yeah, very cool though.
The gym situation is a little questionable. It might be shutting down soon, even though it just reopened. I'm trying to get my numbers to a place where I'd feel comfortable competing, knowing that I would have competitive numbers. And for my clients, I really encourage them to strength train. Like, I'll definitely adapt the program if it's not something that if they're not like, I don't want to do squats, bench, and deadlift. But I really encourage people, because I try and practice what I preach. I think getting as strong as possible without interfering with other aspects of your life, whether that's training so hard that it interferes with your recovery and causes you a lot of stress, or causes you to use performance enhancing drugs, which have other implications. So yeah, trying to get trying to get as strong as possible. I'm trying to get my clients as strong as possible.
Yeah, very cool.
That's about it.
And if people were, because I know, that you got a huge following now, and a lot of people, really loving the content that you're putting out. What's a way someone can kind of get in contact with you or support your business? Like, what services do you offer? How can they get a bit more of Ben?
It's a great question because I'm also not a marketing expert, and I have very little services. I don't sell anything. I don't profit off of anything. Just kind of out
So
here.
guys,
But
if you want to email him some cash, if you want to just flick him a donation,
you
like
want
I can add like some PayPal
yeah,
donation box. Yeah.
like a Cash App or something. No, yeah, just honestly, I just love answering questions and hearing that people are actually getting value from the information I'm providing. And if you're interested in working with me, anybody who's interested, I do offer, there's a paid consultation just because I get a lot of surprising amount of requests, but sometimes people don't show up, and I want to encourage that. And if you do decide to work with me, that fee just goes towards the coaching anyway.
Mm,
So the only thing I offer right now is the one-on-one coaching.
mm.
I'm looking into putting out some more stuff in the future, but I'm trying. I don't want to put out anything that goes against my values, like a very cookie cutter generic home workout. I think that
Yeah.
would be very ingenuine. Um, so right now, just the coaching.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. Well, guys, if you like, the best thing you could do, and I know Ben and working really hard to keep pumping out content. So the best thing you can do if you like his stuff is just get on there, give it a like, give it a share. Because I know, especially for myself, jumping into YouTube, like starting, YouTube and TikTok, like starting new platforms, like I know how much of a difference it makes if people do go out of their way to make sure they are hitting that like button. So guys, if you come across this stuff, make sure you share it because it's really good content, and anyone watching this knows that more people need that kind of information. And of course, if you do want to just send him some money, I'm sure you can give him a message and ask for his Venmo, and I'm sure I'll be okay with that.
Oh no.
There's my marketing. I haven't done a marketing degree, but I'm pretty sure that was about as good as you're
I'm
gonna
pretty
get.
sure that's what they teach on the first day.
Yeah, it's just ask.
Just ask people to send you money.
I mean, look, it's if it works, let me know and I'll share that message on. So
I'll keep you updated.
Mate, thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you to your missus and the cat in the background there as well for sitting through the monologue.
Brushing the cats.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. It was an awesome time.
Mate, absolute pleasure. And yeah, guys, if we get enough response for this, I'd love to have him back on again. So give us some questions, give us your share, and yeah, I'd love to organize a part 2 in the future.
Definitely. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, mate.
Thank you.